Okay, welcome to today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. Thanks so much for joining us. Today we're going to talk about the number one article for the last several weeks is what's going on with the IRS backlog? Well, why can't I get my refund? That's what we're going to talk about on the show today. So let's start the show. Cut that a little short today. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank you again, and thank you so much for joining us here today. We're going to talk about got a couple things. Going to review some of the things we talk or update some of the stories we had last week on the show. We're going to talk about the backlog again. That's the number one. That's the number one article. I've been kind of hesitant to talk about it because it's everywhere, and to be honest with you, there's very little we can do about it. I can tell you, as a practitioner, as they call us in the business, I have experienced this delay for 18 months now, and it gets very frustrating. The IRS keeps trying to come up with ways around it, and and to try to improve. And so far, I don't think they've really come up with an improvement. So, for instance, for them to get my power of attorney, we call it Form 2848, the power of attorney. For me to get that to the IRS, I always had to send it via fax, and it would take 14 to 21 days for it to process. And then once it processed, then I can get documents from the IRS. I can get all the transcripts, and I can follow up and do the investigation for my clients. But what's happened since COVID is they stopped. There was nobody there to process the return or the fax. Okay, so there's two ways you could do it before. You could fax it in, or you could mail it in, U.S. mail. We tried both ways. I sent some in. It took months and months and months, and that's no exaggeration because there was nobody there at the IRS to process them. These were all. This was all manual labor. Had to be done manually. Well, early January, they came up with a workaround, and that was you could upload it to a site on the IRS.gov website, but it still had to be processed by a human being, and they had to take it and process it very similar to a fax. Then last week or 2 weeks ago, they came up with a new program, which is I could get it authenticated if my client goes on their own IRS.gov account, and everybody has one. Sometimes it's easy to get in, and sometimes it's not because they ask you for some financial to verify who you are, some financial information, and not everybody has that information readily at hand, and so sometimes it makes it difficult for people to get into the account. But this was a couple of weeks ago. It was supposed to be they called it real time. So once I put it in, once I made the authorization request, my client would okay it, and then in real time it was okayed. But then I read the small print. It said 48 hours, 72 hours. But I see that it took a little longer than that. We had some that's been processed. Again, they started this about 2 weeks ago. We sent one in the first day, and it took about 2 weeks for it to get through. So that's what it used to take for a fax. But again, at least it didn't take months and months and months. So anyway, they've had this. So the big thing now is the IRS is behind in everything. They're processing tax returns. They haven't sent out a lot of refunds. They have been asked to do extra things, stimulus checks, the unemployment refunds, the earned income tax credit, things like this that they've been tasked to do. That has taken time away. I mean, the COVID is enough to put them behind, but these other duties have really added to the time of processing. So let me go into these stories today. So this is the first story. Oh, my aching backlog. What tax pros tell clients about delays. So as I mentioned to you, I have a lot of clients, and we have these delays. And what do I tell people? And so I can kind of cut through the chase here. I'll read most of this, but I'm going to cut to the chase here. And that means not much. Be patient. That's all you can do is be patient. Try to make sure the IRS isn't trying to collect on things because of their delay. Because one area of the IRS doesn't know what the other area of the IRS is doing. And so if they were expecting something, but you can't do it because it's been delayed, so they haven't processed my tax return, for instance, and then I get a notice from the IRS saying that they haven't received my tax return. They did receive my tax return. They just haven't processed it yet. And the area that's supposed to send me a notice that tells me I haven't filed hasn't gotten a notice that I haven't filed. That I did file. And so they sent out a notice that says I didn't file. So they said they generally have two questions. Where's my federal refund? And that is a big question. I get that question a lot. Why haven't they processed my return? And again, I've always kind of explained all this to you, why that is. I've informed my clients that of a backlog with tax agencies, so my clients know that processing times are going to take much longer than normal. All we can do is check every couple of months to get a status of it. Every couple of months. So this is troubling. It is very troubling. We have many clients waiting a long time for their tax refunds, especially those who had to file or amended or paper returns. Amended returns, if you're sending amended returns or older returns, so many of my clients haven't filed in some years, and so we send in 14, 15, 16. You can't file those electronically. If I file those, and we have some that we filed more than a year ago, they still have not been processed. Okay, so we're still waiting. And we check all the time. We're still waiting. They haven't been processed. And that's just the way it is. One of them, then they talk to an enrolled agent. We have enrolled agents. These are accountants. One of them has been waiting since February, and they have called the IRS. Wait times on the line are notoriously long, and you get kicked off again. They only answer, I think they don't answer 80% of all the calls. They say they don't have time or the manpower to answer 80% of the calls. I'm not sure if the Taxpayer Advocate Service will help, but it's worth a shot. The Taxpayer Advocate Service is a section of the IRS supposed to be independent that helps taxpayers facilitate some action from the IRS if there's a complaint. Sometimes they work, to be honest with you, and sometimes they don't. At the end of 2021 filing season, the IRS had still over 35 million individual and tax returns requiring manual processing, meaning employee involvement is generally required before a return can advance to the next change in the pipeline. We remember last week I showed you the video of the pipeline and how this works for manually. It's a very laborious endeavor and takes a long time. Now, again, we're very happy that more than 90%, almost 95%, I believe, in 2021 this year, were processed electronically. So I don't know how they can have 35 million that have to be processed individually or by hand. I don't know how that could be. With the December 27th legislation, the IRS did not have time to adjust its systems for 21 filing season 19 earnings to be systematically verified. The IRS had to manually verify those returns where the taxpayer elected a 2019 earned income to claim the earned income tax credit, or the ACTC. This is the injured spouse form. I believe that's the 85, the other form that's mentioned here. So the backlog was initially caused since the IRS forced to shut down during the pandemic. Then the IRS had to implement new tax incentives, including distributing 3 rounds of stimulus checks. The good news is that the IRS is required to pay interest to those who received their tax refund late. Now, last year I got a call from I think it was Channel 7, and they asked me about the refund. Well, who's going to get a interest on their refund because they haven't paid it? And I gave them what the law was, what the rule was. They sat on the story for about 2 or 3 or 4 days. And when they aired the story that day, the IRS changed the rules and started saying, well, we're not going to wait the 45 days we're supposed to wait. We're going to give them we're going to go back to the original date, and we're going to give people interest on that date. The average interest here I have that story up, so let me look at that. So this is from last year. The average to receive IRS tax refund interest, taxable payments to average $18. So is the convenience or the inconvenience of you not getting your refund worth $18? The answer is no. right? No, I'd rather have the refund than the $18 that they're trying to pawn off on me to make up for the time that the months that it's been since I haven't got my refund. But I guess it beats a sharp stick in the eye, but not too much more. My own opinion. So here's a chart. Individual income tax processed by tax day in millions, and you can see that that they say it's over the average. I find that hard to believe. My own opinion. Clients, of course, sometimes are unfamiliar with why refunds might be delayed, an incomplete or erroneous return. That's always the case. Even without COVID, if you have errors on your return, it's going to delay it because now they can't be processed electronically. They have to be processed by a person. And that always is going to cause more problem, and it's going to take it out of the regular the regular pipeline. Situation kicking out computer generated notices, and this is what I mentioned this already, so I'm going to skip this. I explained the refunds were delayed because they were owed stimulus, and we applied for the recovery rebate credit, and the IRS is taking forever to process and confirm the credit allowed versus the credit we calculated. Or delayed because we had to file a paper return, and that extends the processing time, probably to the next millennium. not too much far from the truth. Okay, so there's a lot. Let me just go through here, see what else they have. Okay, so very, very similar. Again, I think that the last, they say 2 words, but it's more. It boils down to 2 words, but this isn't 2 words. Even with calling the IRS, there doesn't appear to be any way to speed up the process. The best advice we give to clients is to promptly respond to any notices from the IRS and be patient. You really don't have a choice. And that's why I said, what's a taxpayer to do? Be patient. You really don't have any other choice. That's what you have to do. Why your delayed tax refund could mean more money back from the IRS. And this is just a story about interest, right? So they're going to pay some interest. If you found waiting to receive your tax refund, the good news is that it's likely not because there's something wrong with your filing. The bad news is it's probably because the Internal Revenue Service is simply overwhelmed from a bunch of different reasons, pandemic related and not, and that it could be some time before you get the cash from the government owes you. The end result, millions of Americans are currently being left waiting to receive their returns. I think they mean refunds, just like those waiting for their stimulus checks. And when you consider that the average value of a tax return, and again, I think they mean refund, last year was $2,873, hundreds of millions of dollars being kept out of the economy. Here's what you should know about the mess. What's causing it? What's causing the delay? The short answer, the IRS is being asked to do more with less. And I don't know if that's true. I don't buy that they're doing more with less. We talked about this and why I think the electronic filing has given them more to do more with more and not with less. That's my argument. I'm going to stick to it. The IRS is being asked to do all kinds of extra. Well, it is true that the stimulus checks, the fact that the IRS changed the rules when it comes to unemployment, because unemployment benefits are generally taxable. After the IRS, when people put in their initial tax returns early in the year, they were still taxable. So the IRS, you paid a tax on it. And then Congress changed the rule retroactively. So the IRS had to go back and manually reprocess those returns that had the refund or the unemployment on there. So you had the unemployment, you paid tax on it, and now the IRS had to give you a refund, and they had to rework your return for that to give you that refund. And that took time. And then I guess, obviously, the stimulus checks and then the earned income payments that they're sending out once a month, that's also on the IRS back. And again, COVID. And that's always the reason. What can taxpayers do? All of these changes mean that calls to the agency have more than doubled, according to its commissioner, sometimes peaking at 1,500 calls per second. Only 2% of the phone calls to the main IRS hotline are getting through. I'm going to repeat that. 2%. That's a lot less than I said. I said 15%. Only 2% of the phone calls to the main IRS hotline are getting through. And even those lucky enough to speak to someone likely won't find an answer about their refund. Now, you can go on to irs.com and .gov and track your refund. It'd be probably it'd be a better use of your time because getting on the phone with the IRS, if you're one of the 2%, you're going to be on hold for a long time until they can get to you. The better thing to do is to use the agency's Where's My Refund tool. That's what I just suggested. Will taxpayers facing these delays be compensated? Yeah, you'll get the interest, as I mentioned. The average interest last year was $18. So, what is that? And here's that. There it is again, the $18. So, that was from last year when they changed the rule. Now, one more case I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the U.S. Supreme Court passes again on hearing the IRS marijuana lawsuits. We talked about this last week about the marijuana distributors or in the cannabis industry that they have to pay taxes, and they don't get any deductions because it's Section 280E of the IRS statute, and that cannabis is a controlled substance. Controlled substances fall into this category, and this category, you cannot deduct expenses in this category. It's also a reason why they can't bank in national banks, and so that's why it's a cash business. I also was reminded, because I didn't mention this last time, but if the IRS, if you're going to pay your taxes in cash, there's a 10% penalty. You have to pay 10% more if you're paying in cash. So they don't get the deductions. They have to pay in cash because that's what they have, and they have to pay extra in taxes. So not only do they have to get a deduction, but they have to pay extra. So there was a lawsuit that went to the 10th Circuit. They lost, and the plaintiff lost, and says the IRS has every right to do this, and actually is required by law to do this. It went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court turned it down. So they're not going to overturn that decision. I think rightfully it belongs in Congress. Congress has to make the laws to change it. That's the only thing that can happen. So that's what's got to be done for them to change it. And then the last story is the IRS is not always complying with taxpayer protections. I thought this was important. We talked about this last week too, about the IRS having their own rules and then breaking their own rules. And this is a story about that. And this is another reason why sometimes you need somebody to help you with this, because the IRS agents or officers or whoever you're talking with often don't know what the rules are, right? They might have breezed through them and reviewed them, but they don't know them. And as a taxpayer, you don't know them either. And so, you expect them to know them. So when they tell you something, you believe that that's the truth. And so sometimes the IRS will contact you when you have a power of attorney. Well, they're supposed to contact your power of attorney. So the first thing I tell my clients is, if you hear from the IRS, you tell them, I have an attorney. Here's his name. Here's his phone number. Thank you so much for calling. Call my lawyer. Okay, that's the proper response when you have a power of attorney on file. Okay, and they should contact your power of attorney. I don't want to get too much into this case, but suffice it to say that the IRS doesn't always follow the rules, and that's what my job is to have the IRS follow the rules on your behalf. Right? That's what it's all about. We want to make sure that the IRS is following their rules, and many of the rules are to your advantage. So that's why we want to use them. Again, once you have a power of attorney, they're not allowed to contact you, right? They have to contact your lawyer, and that's what that story was about. So again, I think this was a kind of a review from what we've talked about and previously, but I like to follow up on other stories that we've done. The cannabis story is a good one, and others. Yesterday we talked about the cryptocurrency and the $600 million theft, and then the follow-up to that. So maybe we'll have a follow-up to that next week, but we'll see. So now here I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, right? Like, subscribe, share this. Okay, we want to get it out to as many people as we can. So if you're on Facebook, like it. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, share it. No matter where you are, share it. It'd be very helpful for us. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do. If you subscribe on Facebook, put something in the comments, and then I will respond to the comments. If you subscribe, write in the comments, I subscribed. And then we want to let everybody know that you have. And then I will respond to your comments. I know I've been saying this for a while now, but I have been working on the website to provide the free digital version. And again, the digital version, it has a Word format of the book. It's got a PDF format of the book. It's got an audio format of the book. It's got a chapter by chapter video analysis of each and every, or review of each and every chapter in the book that I did. So, I think we include it free with the book now. If you order a copy of the book, I will give you the book. I will ask you to pay shipping and handling, a small fee for shipping and handling, but I'll pay for the book and everything else, and you'll get free access to the digital version. If you want the digital version, I'm working on it. Okay, so what I would suggest is go on to freeirsbook.com, fill out the form, and don't pay. And then I'll get back to you and I'll give you the membership to the site so you can get the digital version. So again, go to freeirsbook.com. If you want a paper copy, I'll send it to you in the mail. I'll ask you to pay a small shipping and handling fee. But if you want it for free, simply fill out the form and then don't pay. And then I'll get a notice that you filled out the form, and then I'll send you the membership login. Okay, fair enough? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I want to thank you so much for joining us here today. It's been fun. I always have fun. That's why I do it. But I want you to get a lot of information. I'm trying to share information with you on how to fix your IRS problem. Okay, so if you want to fix your IRS problem, again, get my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com. So again, thanks so much for joining us, and I'll see you again tomorrow.